طيب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. My brothers and sisters in Islam, I welcome you all in this third session in the series Arabic Grammar for Beginners. And I remind you that this is what we can call the pre-Ajurumiyya class. You know, Ajurumiyya is the first textbook that one should tackle when it comes to learning Nahu, Arabic grammar, right? But I find that having taught the book before, I find that there is few gaps that needs to be bridged between a non-Arabic speaker and the textbook. This textbook is actually designed for Arabic speakers. So it will help if we can just go around the basic concepts at the beginning. And once we become familiar with it, then we can get into more comfortably. And I highlighted previously that it is essential that we follow the guidance of the scholars. And in particular, we should follow the books that seems to have received a lot of attention from scholars. And one of the benefits of this is that it is a blessed book. The ulama, they said that if you find a certain book written by an author 600, 700, 800 years ago, and still so much attention is drawn to it, so much explanation around it, many scholars looked after it, many scholars have commented on it, that tells you that this particular book is blessed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have seen a level of sincerity from this particular scholar that he rewarded them for their sincerity by putting barakah and putting love for this book on the hearts of people. And this barakah means that whoever touches this book is going to find this subject matter very easy for them to learn. So you can learn from a book that is blessed and get the blessings, or you can choose to learn from a book that is not blessed and then miss out on the blessings, and then you'll experience difficulties that are beyond what you could if you have learned from the book, right? So Al-Ajurumiyya is really the book that we should be learning from for the reasons I just stated. But like I said, there are a few things that I would love for you to learn before we actually touch Al-Ajurumiyya itself. Okay? Do you remember first time I show you a diagram which I drew for you in the first class that looks like a spiral drawing, small circles inside of one another? Do you remember that thing? Nahu is like this. You go with a small circle at the beginning. You go around a basic concepts, but then you take another round in learning Nahu again, but a larger circle, which means that you go through the same concept again, right, but with more expansion. And then once you have finished the second circle, you go around the third time round. So you have now a spiral drawing that has a third layer or a third round circle around it. That means that you go through the textbook again, and you will expand a little bit more on top of it. So what we are doing now here, we are going through basic, a smaller circle before the circle of Al-Ajurumiyya. Right? This is what we are doing here. I gave you in the previous two classes an introduction that I think is sufficient. So today, inshallah, I will delve into the first idea that is significant in this book, in Nahu. Let me get my not yet, inshallah. So basically, we spoke about also last week in the introduction or the first classes, we spoke about the importance of categorizing words in the Arabic language. Do you remember this discussion? The importance of categorizing words in Nahu. Can anyone tell us why is it significant? Why is it important for us to say this word falls under this category or the third category? Why is this important? Because this will be the first class we learn. And if you know the general direction of where you're going with this field of knowledge, it will help you make sense of the material that you're learning, and you will grasp it faster. But if you don't know why you're studying certain information, you will feel confused, you will feel demotivated, and you will miss out on general ideas. So the first idea that you will learn in Nahu is categorizing words. So the question, why should we bother about categorizing words within the Arabic language? Yeah. Yes, Omar?
There is a meaning.
Huh?
There is a meaning.
Meaning, yeah. But that's as far as Nahu is concerned, as far as grammar is concerned, that's not what we're looking at.
Make i'rab.
Yes, to do i'rab. Eventually, we would like to do grammatical analysis. If you remember, we won't be able to say, when we have a verbal sentence, for example, we will want to know, what is this word? Is it serving? Remember we said that verbal sentences consist of what? Fi'l as basic, and fa'il as basic, and potentially it can have also maf'ulun bihi. These are the basic components of al-jumla al-fi'liya, right? A verbal sentence. So we will want to know which word inside of this sentence is actually the fi'l, isn't it? We want to know which one is the fi'l and which one is the subject, the fa'il. Which one can potentially be maf'ulun bihi, right? And so on and so forth. So for you to be able to say which one is which, and then decide what haraka should you assign to it? What haraka should you assign to it? Right? You first need to recognize, is this a verb? Is it a noun? Is it fi'l or ism? Or is it harf? You need to be able to recognize that. Does that make sense? You remember the example I gave you, a very, very significant example. If we say, ضرب المعلم الطالب. طيب ضرب المعلم الطالب. Let's do translation first. What does this mean? ضرب, anyone? He hit. ضرب means he hit. المعلم, the teacher. الطالب, the student. Now, so we have a verb, which is he hit, ضرب, and then we have a subject, المعلم, and then we have an object, or مفعول به, which is the student, الطالب. So we know that the hitting was an action that was conducted by the teacher, and it was applied to the student, right? How can we tell? Maybe it's a student who hit the teacher. How can we tell? Huh? Because of the haraka. Because of the haraka. So when we speak, we want to say that it is the teacher who hit the boy. We say what? ضرب. Watch that. ضرب المعلم. We put a dhamma on top of it. That dhamma is telling us that المعلم is the one that is the fa'il. And then I said الطالبة. طالبة. That fatha at the end is telling us that the one who the hitting was applied on was the student. But in the same order of words, I could say this. ضرب. Listen to this. ضرب المعلم الطالب. Look, ضرب المعلم rather than المعلم. المعلم الطالب. Who's the one who conducted the act of hitting? The student. Because we're saying ضرب المعلم الطالب, the one that has the dhamma at the end of it, the one that is in a state of rafa, as we will see inshallah, that is the object. And then that's the subject, the fa'il. And the muallim, the teacher, in this second example, is the one being hit by the student, right? But how do we know? Nothing to do with the order of words. It's to do with the sign at the end of that word. Al-muallima, we said, rather than a muallimu. Right? So for us to be able to say this is fa'il, this is the subject, this is fi'l, and therefore I will do this to it. So daraba, I will put a fatha at the end of it because it's a fi'l madi. Right? Al-muallimu, because it's a fa'il, I will put dhamma on top of it. Al-taliba, the student, I will put fatha at the end of it because it's an object. مفعول به. طيب. So this, if you know what you're dealing with, after knowing what you're dealing with, then you will decide what to do with it, right? But the first thing you have to do is what? You need to be able to say, what is it? Is it فعل? Is it a verb? Or is it a noun that is playing the role of فاعل? Or is it حرف? The first thing in the grammatical analysis is to decide what you're dealing with. طيب. Is that making sense, my brothers? If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. طيب. And by the way, I remind you of what I said in the first class, that Nahu is easy if you master the first 5 sections of the book. There's about 23, roughly. طيب. Do the first 5 perfectly, and everything else afterwards will become easy. The first 5, you don't understand them, or you don't understand them very well, you will have so much complications later on. So I'm really genuinely advising you, stop me and ask me questions as we go along. Let's build these 5 first chapters very well, and then you find that Nahu will become easy for you. Right? Well, let me share my screen with you.
I think it's still loading.
Yeah, maybe I should do it again. Stop sharing and do it again. Yeah. Yes. So you can see my screen now?
Yes, it's clear.
Good.
For me, it is.
Yeah. Right, let's do this. There is a problem. طيب. So the first thing I would like us to do, whenever you look at a sentence, whether it is a sentence that you want to make, it's a sentence that you want to make, or it's a sentence that somebody else made, but you would like to understand. When you're trying to construct a sentence, but you want to convey the right meaning, you don't want to construct it in the wrong way, and then people misunderstand you. And if other people have written a sentence, you want to look into it and to make sure that you understood something. And I remind you that this is something that you will do the most. You know, before you learn how to speak in a grammatically correct sense, you will need to be able to read a lot the writings of other people and to be able to make sense of them. Right? So first, you will be looking at a lot of texts, a lot of books. When you have learned and mastered your ability to understand other people's writings, then you will be able to make your own writing and to be able to be sure that you write it in the right form so that you're not misunderstood. Right? So the first thing that we need to know that there are 3 categories of words, and there is no other than them. 3 categories of words in the Arabic language. What does this mean? It means that whenever you look at a word, it will be one of 3. It cannot be anything else, which is very easy. It has to be either a verb, فعل, or ism, or ism means a noun, or a حرف. حرف, I will explain it inshallah in a minute. Let me see. What is this? All right. We can say أقسام So this means أقسام الكلام, meaning that the type of words these are the type of words within the Arabic language. Any word you come across, it has to be one of these three. The first one we said, the first one was al-fi'lu.
Is there a benefit of sticking to the order?
Huh?
Is there a benefit of sticking to that?
Actually, let's do it the proper way. The first thing we should be learning is al-ismu. You know, al-ism. Al-ism. And then al-fi'l. And then al-harf. Al-harf. Okay. So when you come across any word, any sentence, the first thing you need to be looking at is for every one word within that sentence, what is it? Is it ism? Is it fi'l? Is it harf? We said al ismu al fi'lu al harf. Right? So what does al-ism mean? Al-ism,
Now.
a noun. Noun. Al-fi'l
Well,
means verb. A verb. Al-harf. Al-harf means letters. Literally, it means letters. So we will call them letters. But from now on, I would like you to adopt something. Some of you might be thinking that, I don't have vocabulary. So what is the point of studying grammar when I don't have vocabulary? I said at the beginning of the class will be most suited for people who have learned a little bit of vocabulary, a little bit of dialogue, saying, how are you? I'm this and that. My name is this, having a little bit of dialogue. But even if you haven't done that, it's fine. I would like you to begin picking up your vocabulary from our examples. So knowing that al-ism or ismun, it means noun. It means noun. Such that now you've learned a vocabulary. I would recommend you to have a small booklet or one section or the end section of your notebook to dedicate it for words in Arabic and their meanings in English, words and meaning. And then as we go along in the course, inshallah, you will have acquired a lot of words. Okay? So we have nouns, verbs, and letters. Let me see. What is what is a fi'l, for example? Fi'l, the middle one, and then I'll come back to al-ism. What is fi'l? Can anybody tell us what fi'l is? Fi'l. If we talk about fi'l, what is the description of fi'l? Huh? Action. But how can we describe them a little bit more? It's a word that contains two things within it. Two things. An action, a name or a concept of an action, and a time to it. So like, for example, if we speak about kataba, right? So this is an example sentence, example word, kataba, right? So this word now, kataba, what does it mean? Kataba, he wrote. So we're referring to an absent masculine, al-ghaib, mufrad al-ghaib, and say this person did the action of writing. Okay? This person who is a male masculine and is absent, we're referring to him and saying this person did the act of writing. Okay? When did he do the act of writing? In the past. So kataba now is one word that contains two things. What? The name of the concept, which is what? The concept of writing. So writing here is actually a noun. Writing is a noun. and the time connotation also is there in the verb. So that's why it is probably more appropriate to begin by describing what a noun is. I found some books, they begin describing fi'l, right? And then they say fi'l is a word that contains ism inside of it, and it contains also the connotation of time. But then that's problematic because we haven't yet spoken about ism. But if we speak about ism first, what is ism? Ism is a word that is that conveys a concept, and it is free from the connotation of time. Ism is a word that conveys a concept or a matter or a thing, and is also free from the connotation of time. So, for example, kitab book, that's an ism because it's a word that refers to a concept or a thing, and it has no connotation of time, and it makes sense by itself as well, meaning it doesn't need the help of another word for you to have an understanding of what we're speaking about, right? So when somebody says kitab, would you understand what this word means? When somebody says kitab, would you understand what this word means?
Yeah.
Does that mean book?
Book. End of story. Khalas. Kitab means book. All right. So it's a word that conveys a meaning without the need of assistance from another word, and it is free from the connotation of time. How many conditions? 2. You know what's the first one? It's a word that conveys a meaning by itself. When the word is said, you understand something. It doesn't need the help of something else, of another word, for you to understand what is meant. And at the same time, it is free from the connotation of time, right? So that's what ism is. So here, an example for ism, we said kitab. Yeah. So we said kitab. Kitab. So kitab. Kitab means what? Kitabun. Kitabun means book. So this is a word that conveys a meaning by itself. It doesn't need the assistance of another word. And at the same time, it is free from the connotation of time. This word, the next word, kataba, is fi'l, is a verb. It's a word that conveys a meaning, which is what? What is the meaning inside of it? The act of writing, which is an ism. So every fi'l contains inside of it an ism, but it also has a connotation of time. So kataba here, it tells us that the act of writing did happen in the past. Right? This means he wrote. He wrote. Right. Now we have that we come to harf. What is harf? Harf is a word that is incapable of conveying a meaning by itself. A word that is incapable of conveying a meaning by itself. So for example, when we use in English the word to, if somebody asks you, where are you going? Where are you going? I mean, you will say to. Does that make any sense?
No.
It doesn't make sense. So this is an example of harf. Harf is a word, if said, it doesn't convey any meaning by itself. You need to have an adjacent word to it, a word that comes after it that gives you a meaning. So we say to the mosque, to the mosque. Now we have some form of meaning, right? So now we know that to is a harf in the English language, is a harf. In the Arabic language, we have something similar. For example, we can say the word min or mina or ila. Min or mina, it means from. Ila means to. So these are example huruf I'm going to give you, I'm going to write them here. Min or Mina. So here, Mina. This means from. Does it have any meaning in itself? No. It needs another word to convey its meaning. And then we have the word ila, which means to. Again, it doesn't have a meaning by itself. It needs the assistance of another word. So that you can see that harf is different to ism and fi'l in what way? In the fact that it doesn't have a meaning by itself, whereas ism and fi'l, they have a meaning by themselves, right? How is ism different from fi'l?
It doesn't have a connotation of time.
Yeah, ism doesn't have the connotation of time. All right, as you will see later on, in al-Ajrumiyya, you will be given signs. How do you recognize an ism, and how do you recognize fi'l? Right, and that will also be helpful. طيب. Let's see here. طيب. Here in this, let's take some examples. طيب. Now it's just a matter of getting more and more examples. The more you come across, the more you become familiar. So at the beginning, don't feel overwhelmed with the need to write everything or understand everything. Few examples will help you understand the concept. One example, ism here, for example. Who can give me examples of asma? Ism. Qalam. So we said qalam. If you can see, you want to see what I'm writing. Qalam. Qalamun. Right? Qalamun. What does it mean? Pen. Everybody familiar with that? Anything else? Any other ism? Maktabun. Maktabun. Okay. So maktabun. Maktabun. What does that mean? Yeah, a desk. Desk. A maktab. طيب. معلم. 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 Teacher. Right? What else? طالب. طالب mean a student. طالب. So a hint for you here. If you can, طيب, ask yourself, what are the most frequent sentences you make in Arabic, in English? Right? So when you speak, what would you say the most frequent sentences that you use? Write them down and then check a dictionary. Right? So that you have the most frequently used words in English, you have the equivalent of them in Arabic. And that will speed your learning process. Right? For example, if you want to say at the beginning, greetings is the first thing that you need to say to people. So after saying assalamu alaikum, you will want to know how to greet people, and you will want to ask about them. What's your name? Where do you live? Are you free? You'd like to invite somebody over. You would like to check if they are okay. Right? So this sort of conversation, basic things, write them down in English, and then look up in English, in Arabic, the equivalent of these words. You can look also in context. If you are in the masjid, for example, what would be the most appropriate words that you will need to use? Right? Pray, for example, you will want to know how to say pray. Right? You will want to know how to use the word enter, as into the masjid, come out of the masjid, stand in the line. So in every context, I want you to see what are the most common words and list what are the verbs and what are the asma that you will need for that purpose. All right, and build on your vocabulary like this. And by way of mentioning this as well, you need to have a dictionary you need to have an Arabic keyboard and you need to have a dictionary. Right? If you have your phone, installing an Arabic keyboard is straightforward. You can search on Google, once you are able to write in Arabic without without the short vowels, you write whatever you want to write, and then you write it in English. You write the Arabic and then you say meaning in English. So you write the Arabic word and you put the word meaning in English. It will give you the English meaning of it. Or you can put it the other way around. Right? You can say book and then you write in Arabic. Okay, or meaning in Arabic. So Google in itself is a dictionary, right? But you really need to see which app, which website is most comfortable with you. But you need to have developed this relationship with one app that will be the go-to app when it comes to dictionaries and stuff like this. That's the easiest way for you to collect vocabulary. Very soon, before you know it, you would have collected enough to converse with. طيب, فعل. Give me examples of فعل. Huh? We use the word ضرب. So كتب is the common one. ضرب, usually they use it in نحو for some reason. ضرب فلان فلان. So and so hit so and so. ضرب. What other examples? جلس. 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 So جلس. What else? Yeah, we done كتب before. ها؟ من غير مضاعف. قرأ. قرأ. So قرأ. قرأ. What else? Omar, can you think of one?
Yeah, I was like,
Think of a common word that you use in English and you would like to say it in Arabic. ضرب means
I'm coming. No?
ضرب. لا, ضرب means to hit. He hit.
How to say?
جاء.
I come.
جاء.
So,
جاء. جاء. So جاء means he came. We will learn later on how to change it into I came. And then how do you say he left? He went. We can say ذهب. ذهب. There are a few words that convey this. ذهب. Right? What else? أكل. 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 You get the gist of it, huh? These are examples. Can you give me an example of a verb that wasn't done in the past, that is present continuous, for example, or present simple? يأكل. So أكل, the present simple of it, which is called مضارع in the Arabic language, and you will know soon, inshallah, why it's called مضارع. يأكل. So يأكل. So we have أكل in the past. يأكل is presently eaten or regularly eating. So somebody who eats in the morning cereal, for example, you would still use مضارع to describe them. They eat cereal every day in the morning, or they go football every day, every Saturday. So this is, even though it's not happening right now, but it's still مضارع because it happens in a regular basis. So مضارع is a verb that takes place either presently as we speak, or not happening right now, but it happens on an ongoing regular basis. Yeah. So يأكل and يذهب. So we had ذهب, which is in the past. He left or he went. طيب. And then you have يذهب. يذهب means what? He is going, or he goes regularly. He goes to the masjid, for example. So these are examples of فعل مضارع, something that is happening as we speak or on a regular basis. The third category, or the third instance of فعل is commands. something, a verb that you expect to be done after you give instruction, meaning in the future. In the future, in the sense after you give an instruction. So they call it فعل أمر. We will come to that inshallah. For example, كل means what? Eat. So كل. What else? اذهب. So we had ذهب before, now we have اذهب. طيب. This is همزة وصل. All right. اذهب means go. طيب. اكتب. اقرأ. All these are examples. طيب. But you get the gist of it now. All right. I really would like you to do this for homework. I would like you to write at least 3 contexts. Let's say the context of family at home, the context of friends in a playground or a football ground or in a gathering, and then the context of work, let's say. Right? And then for each one of those, I want you to write at least 5 ism and 5 fi'l. The most common ism that you would use in these contexts. So for example, at home, one word that you need to use is sleeping, to sleep. For example, one word, one ism is bed. You will want to talk about the bed. You want to speak about a door. You will want to speak about a pillow. At the workplace, you will want to speak about a pen. You will want to speak about the boss. You will want to speak about a colleague. You will want to speak about a meeting. So think of different contexts and think about the most popular 5 asma, 5 nouns, and the most popular or the most frequently used verbs. What are they? And then hit them. So we have 3 contexts, and for each context, 5 most frequently used asma and 5 most frequently used verbs. Right? And then write them and then look them up in Google. How do you do that? You write the word in Arabic, in English, and then you just add to it after that in Arabic. So book in Arabic, and then Google will give it to you. And also, ideally, I would like you to have looked into various apps on your phone for translation or dictionary, and then pick up and have it like within your grasp, so that you can easily look into it and you easily search it. طيب. So this we had examples of al-ism and al-fi'l. Al-harf, we had 2 so far, min and ila. Anybody can think of another harf? Yeah? Ala. Ala is another harf. Ala. Ala means on top of. Ala الطاولة, on top of the table. Right? Ala, on top of or above. Okay? That's ala. All right. Another example harf. Yeah. تحت. No, تحت is not the harf. تحت is not harf. في عن في, which means in or inside. عن عن, which means emerging from. عن means emerging from or exiting from. So when you speak about an arrow coming out of the bow, you will use عن, right? Something of the sort. So something that comes out of something. Let's think about another harf. We have the harf ba, just ba, the B. So we have, it is harf that consists of only one letter. The previous ones, they were huruf that consisted of more than one letter. Right? But this is the ba with kasra billawit, like when we say Bismillahi, Bismillahi. So it's a letter that has a meaning to it. All right, which means in the name of Allah, with the name of Allah, by the name of Allah, and so on and so forth. Right? So that's B. Li as well. Li. Li. Right? Is a harf. All right. That means because of. Right? Because of. Huh? Wa. Yes. Wa. The letter wa. We have we come across it now? No. Wa means it's a conjunction. We did. It's a conjunction. Wa means and, a conjunction linking two sentences. But you get the gist of it. So these are the three main categories of words within the Arabic language, and you will not go anywhere as far as doing grammatical analysis unless the first thing you do is what? Being able to recognize, is this a fi'l? Because there are a set of things you can do for af'al. Or is it an ism? There are a set of things you can do for asma. And there are a set of things that can be done with huruf. The first thing you need to do, you need to recognize which of the three things is this. طيب. Let's see what so this we took some examples. Let me give you an example sentence, an example sentence. طيب. Trying to see something that is easy. Look at this. عامل 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 الناس ب So this is an example. Who is able to read this for me? عامل الناس بالإحسان. طيب. عامل الناس بالإحسان. So now عامل, it means what? What's the meaning of the word عامل? Treat. عامل means treat. So I'll say here the meaning is treat. الناس, what does it mean? People, yeah. People. And then you have here بالإحسان. So you have how many? You see this here? How many words do you see here? How many words? Two words. See, recognizing that is very important. Trying to do nahu, looking at this word, thinking it is one word, that will confuse you. Right? You need to be able to see that the ba itself is a word. Even though it's one letter, it's a one-letter word, which is called harf. Right? So we have harf here. This is harf, and has a meaning of what? With.
Is it just the ba, or is it the ba and the lam?
Just the ba. Just the ba. And then you have this, the word that is in blue. Right? This word here. Right? What's it called? Al-ihsan. Al-ihsan means, how would you translate al-ihsan? Kindness. Kindness, yeah? All right. So kindness. So now we have a sentence. عامل الناس or عامل الناس بالإحسان. Can we spot a فعل here?
The first one.
The first one, okay, عامل, because it's a verb, it means treat, right? Treat. And then we have الناس.
No,
Listen.
Huh?
no, listen.
It's an ism. Right? And you can see that the ism here is what? It has fatha on top of it, if you remember that discussion, which means this is not the subject. This is the object. Right? Because you're telling somebody, treat people, meaning you treat people. So the subject is basically you. You are instructing the person to do the action of treating, and therefore the subject is you, the one spoken to, عامل. So there is like a hidden pronoun here. Look here. There's a hidden pronoun here, which means in English you. In Arabic, this is what? Anta. Right? And this, whether it is anta or you, that is the subject. That is the fa'il. But we will come to that later on. But basically what I wanted you to see here is that this is a sentence. You can go nowhere by way of grammatically analyzing it until you are able to recognize which one is which. First and foremost, are we dealing with a verbal sentence or a nominal sentence? Is it jumla ismiya or jumla fi'liya? And there's no other alternatives. It can only be one of the two, jumla fi'liya or jumla ismiya. Right? That's the first thing you will have to ask yourself. Am I dealing with this? Jumla fi'liya, therefore I will be looking out for what? Fa'il and maf'ul bihi. Or am I looking for jumla ismiya, and I will be looking for mubtada and khabar, right? So recognizing the first word in the sentence will help you determine what are you dealing with. Are we dealing with jumla ismiya or jumla fi'liya? So this first word happens to be fi'l, right? Fi'l, treat, all right? So now we know that we're dealing with jumla fi'liya, a verbal sentence, and therefore we'll be asking, okay, where is the subject? And then do we have an object? There's an object here, الناس. Okay? So treat you people, or you treat people. But the you is not written because it's obvious. When you speak to somebody, you need to tell them you unless you want to emphasize, right? It's obvious because you're speaking to them, you tell them treat people. And that's why same thing in Arabic, they don't include that pronoun. الناس means people, right? You can recognize here that الناس is with fatha on top of it, and that tells you this is an object or a maf'ul bihi. Now look at bil ihsani. The ba and al ihsani. Ba here is a harf. Now watch out for this. Ba is a harf. It has a meaning. All huruf or huruf, the plural of harf in the Arabic language, all of them, they have meanings. And that's why they call them huruf al-ma'ani, the meaningful letters. They call them meaningful letters, as opposed to huruf al-mabani. Huruf al-mabani is the single letters that make up a word, right? Like kataba, the kaf, ta, ba. Each one of them is harfu mabna, meaning a letter with which a word is constructed, right? But we have a harf here that is not a construction kind of word, a construction letter. It's not harfu mabna, it's harfu ma'na. It has a meaning. So let's take this ruling. Every harf in the Arabic language has a meaning. Every harf in the Arabic grammar has a meaning. Like we will study the meaning of them, inshallah, when we get there. But something else on top of the meaning. It has an influence on the following word. Some huruf only have meanings, and some huruf have meanings and influence on the following word. Okay? This is not complicated, it's easy. Please just have the impression it's easy so that you can understand it easily. If you have the impression that this is difficult, even though it's easy, you will not grasp it. Let's say it again. Every harf in the Arabic language, as far as Nahu is concerned, has a meaning. And this is the reason we call them huruf al-ma'ani, meaning the letters that has meanings to them. All right. as opposed to حروف المباني, the letters that has no meaning. So when we say كتب, the kaf itself by itself, does it have a meaning? It has no meaning. The ta has no meaning. The ba has no meaning. Okay? They only make a meaning when they get together. But here, look at this ba bil ihsani. We said the ba means with ihsan, right? So this is one letter that has a meaning. So in nahu, which of the two letters do we study? حروف المباني أم حروف المعاني? In nahu, al-ma'ani, the letters that have meaning. These are the ones that we are concerned with. Why are we concerned with it? One, because of the meaning they have, but more importantly, because some of them, they are impactful on the following word. For example, here, look at the word al-ihsan. Al-ihsan. Can you see that it has kasra at the end of it? Kasra. This kasra is due to this ba. Because of the ba, this ism here has a kasra at the end of it. It was affected by the letter ba, by the harf ba. Harith, is this clear or is it difficult?
No, I understand it.
You understand it?
Yeah.
طيب. So in this example, we can all see that there was a fi'l, عامل, الناس, there was ism, and then we also have harf. And we notice this harf has two things. It has a meaning. We said it here it means with, but it also has an influence on the following word. Right? Listen to this key word. This ba is عامل. عامل. عامل means it has an influence on the following word. The plural of عامل is عوامل. Oh, similar to the word we have here. عامل means basically a factor of influence, a word that is influencing a following word. So now the word that is here we have is the ba itself. We say even though it's one letter, but it is a word that has a meaning, and also it has influence on the following word. So the following word, which is al-ihsan here, it has the kasra at the end of it only because of the ba that came before it. Right? Shall we think of another example that makes things easier? We studied before ضرب المعلم الطالب. We studied this, but let's think of another example. Let's take this. يلعب الولد في الشارع. Let's say في البيت. Look now. I will put the حركات يلعب الولد في البيت. So in Nahu now, we are concerned with the haraka at the end of each word. Look at يلعب, the first word. How many letters does it have? 4. Yeah. Ya, lam, ain, ba. And each one of them has a haraka. In Nahu, we are only concerned with this one here, the one at the last letter. We want to know why was it dhamma, why was it not fatha or kasra. We want to know this, right? Same thing with the al-waladu. Al-waladu here, we're not bothered with the haraka on top of the alif, the haraka on top of the lam, the haraka on top of the waw, the haraka on top of the lam and the dal. We're not bothered with all of them except with the dal at the end. We want to know why does it have dhamma. It has dhamma, right? Why does it have dhamma? And what are the other possibilities? It could have kasra and it could have fatha. but it didn't have neither. It has dhamma for a particular meaning, right? Now, fi is a word that we will study shortly, inshallah. And we can see here that there is we can see that al-bayti is what? Is a word that we're not concerned about the harakah of the alif, the lam, the ba, the ya, and the ta. We are only concerned with the harakah of the ta at the end. Why? Because in Nahu, this is what makes the difference. And that is our focal point. We want to look at the harakah at the last letter of each word. Right? So now we have yal'abu. The first thing we want to ask ourselves, are we dealing with jumla ismiya or jumla fi'liya? Right? Is it a nominal statement, a nominal sentence, jumla ismiya, or is it a verbal statement, verbal sentence, a jumla fi'liya? Right? And therefore we know what we should be expecting. So yal'abu here, what does it mean? Yeah, he is playing. He is playing or he plays. One of the two, because you know, fi'l mudari' could either mean presently doing the action or regularly, like present simple. Regularly he plays. So yal'abu here means he plays. He plays. Or we can say play for a masculine, a singular masculine. Yeah. So that's yal'abu. So that's a verb, right? It's a verb. So now we know that we're dealing with what? Jumla fi'liya. And that immediately makes you ask your question, what am I expecting? I'm expecting necessarily a fa'il, a subject, okay? And possibly as well an object, maf'ul bihi. The fa'il, what harakah will it have at the end of it? Dhamma. And the maf'ul bihi, the object, what harakah will it have at the end of it? Fatha. Is that clear? So now we're understanding that al-waladu here, al-waladu, because it has dhamma on top of it at the end of the last letter, we know that this is the person who did this action, the action of playing, right? So yal'abu al-waladu. Yal'abu al-waladu. Al-waladu, what does al-waladu mean? The boy. The boy. So we can say the boy plays or is playing. Right? Now we have fi. You have this fi here. What does it mean? In. Yeah. It means in. In. Al-bayt. T. Al-bayti. What does it mean? What? Al-bayt. The house. Yeah. The house. The house. So now we can say the translation, it goes like this. The boy plays in the house. The boy plays in the house. But you can see in the Arabic language how the verb is ordered, how the sentence is ordered, different to English. But at least now we managed to recognize that the first word that we dealt with was fi'l. Right? And then when we recognize that it was fi'l, now we are able to say this is jumla ismiya. Imagine if you had to do grammatical analysis like this and you cannot recognize fi'l from ism from harf. You'll go nowhere. So the first thing you need to look into is how do I differentiate between ism, fi'l, and harf. More of this, inshallah, will come. But for now, the best thing you can do is rely on dictionaries.
Sure, so we said this is a jumla fi'liya, right?
Jumla fi'liya.
Yeah, because of the noun at the front.
Yal'ab, yeah. Because the verb at the beginning, because it's a verbal statement. Yeah. The benefit of this is you know what to expect. You know that I'm looking for fa'il and I'm looking for maf'ul bihi. And then the fa'il, sometimes it might be a hidden fa'il. So you have to watch out for this. Now here, look, al-waladu, fi. What does fi mean? In. What type of word is fi? Harf. One of the significant things about huruf that they are mabniya. What does mabniya mean? Mabniya means it never changes the state or the haraka at the end of it. So when we have ism at the end of it may change in the most cases. Fi'l at the end of it, it may change in the most cases. But harf never changes. So this word here is fi, and it will always be fi regardless of what came before it and regardless of what comes after it. Whereas yal'abu here, for example, yal'abu, it may be yal'ab with sukun, with sukun, or yal'aba with fatha. What does it depend on? It depends on what came before it. So depending on the circumstances, on what comes before a particular word, the end of that word may vary, صح? Except in the case of huruf. Harf will never change. So fi will always be fi. You don't expect it to change at the end of it. It will never change to fa or fu. It will always just be fi. And that's what means is mabni. Can you say this word, mabni? Mabni. What does mabni mean? Mabni means, listen to this. Mabni means the haraka at the end of it is built with it, such that it is not fixed on it. So mabni, you can understand it like this. The haraka at the end of it, or at the haraka on the top of it, never changes because it's part and parcel of the identity of the letter itself. As in Bismillah. Will there be ever a circumstance where it is Basmillah or Busmullah? No, B is always B, will never change. So this is called mabni. Right? One of the, remember I said to you there are 5 sections at the beginning that you need to learn. You know, one of them is the concept of mabni and mu'arab. Mabni is something, a word, the end of which never changes. Right? Mu'arab is the opposite of mabni, is a sentence or a word, the end of which may change depending on what word came before it. Okay? Remember, one of the 5 sections I told you in the beginning of learning Nahu, that is going to be intrinsic in you learning Nahu properly, is this concept of mabni and mu'arab. And I've just simplified it for you now. If you want to understand what mabni is a word, the end of which never changes regardless of what came before it. Say one more time. Mabni is a word. It's an adjective. It's a description of a word or a state of a word. You say this word never changes regardless of what came before it. And if that's the case, you will call it mabni. If it changes depending on what comes before it, then that word will be called mu'arab. Right? Meaning that the end of that word may have fatha, dhamma, kasra, sukun, depending on what came before it. Is that clear? This idea is so important. You need to grasp on it. You need to understand it very well. Mu'arab and mabni. Right? So fi, this word here, fi, is a harf. Is harf, right? And we said 2 things already we learned about huruf, and now we learned something else about huruf. The first thing about harf is that it has a meaning. And we learned also that it may have, it may be amil, it may have an influence on the following words. Right? And we now also learned that every harf is mabni. Every harf is mabni, never changes. Right? So fi is always going to be fi. Now look at fi. Fi means in. It has a meaning, right? And it is mabni. And it is also amil. You know, there are a lot of huruf in the Arabic language. Not all of them are awamil. Not all of them are letters that can influence the following word. So fi is an example of a harf that can influence the following word, the following ism. It's always followed by ism. Fi is always followed by an ism. طيب, حرف jar. So this ism that is after it, now it has kasra. Can you see this kasra at the end of it? Yeah? That kasra, what caused the kasra? What caused the kasra? في. And now look at this question, by the way. I asked and I said, what caused the kasra? What caused the kasra? In Nahu, we don't let any word have any haraka except that we want to understand why does it have that haraka at the end of it. What caused it? What caused it? So now when we advance ourselves a little bit more, the first word is يلعب, right? يلعب, does it have dhamma on top of it? Right? We want to know why does it have dhamma. In other words, we will be asking what is the thing that have influenced it. So any word that is mu'rab, meaning it can have one of three or one of four harakat. We want to know why this particular haraka, and what is the factor, what is the amil that have influenced it. All right. So now, when we study Nahu, my recommendation for you is to always focus on what is the factor, what is the factor that have influenced this particular word to make it with dhamma on top of it. طيب. Al-waladu, for example. Look at al-waladu. Al-waladu has dhamma on top of it, right? What role is it playing within this verbal sentence? The role of what? Fa'il, right? The role of fa'il. Now we want to know what is the factor, what is the amil, in other words, that has influenced this word to have dhamma on top of it, where it could have had what? Kasra or fatha. Why dhamma, and who caused it to have dhamma? So you see these two questions? Why dhamma, and who caused it to have a dhamma? So listen to this one. Every word that is mu'raba, what does mu'raba mean? It can have three possible options. Yeah? Three possible options of the last letter, having fatha, dhamma, or kasra, or sukun in the case of fi'al. You will want to ask why this particular haraka at the end of it, and who is the amil before it? Who is the amil that caused it to have dhamma? These two questions, if you get into the habit of asking them, you will understand the spirit of Nahu. If you don't ask them, you will be the type of students that only says what the teacher tells you to say.
I understand the waladu.
Yeah.
يلعبوا, what causes that?
I will come to that, inshallah. So now, al-waladu now. What led to al-waladu being with dhamma?
The boy was doing the action, he was playing.
Yeah, so the boy was the subject, right?
Yeah.
So in this sentence here, what word caused al-waladu to be in a state of rafa, or to have dhamma on top of it? Yal'abu. So the factor, listen to this, brothers, the factor has to be something that comes before. So al-waladu has yal'abu before it. Yal'abu, the verb, caused the ism to be in a state of rafa. So what's the amil for al-waladu? ما هو عامل الرفع للولد? The word يلعب. This is something I would like you to always be asking yourself. If somebody tells you this is ismun majroor, ism that has a kasra at the end of it, don't let it pass. Ask yourself or ask the teacher what caused it to be in the state of rafa. The significance of this will determine, are you going to be a student of Nahu that repeats what your teacher says without understanding, or you understand what's happening, and that's why you can explain why this particular word has this particular haraka. As we were learning in Saudi Nahu, the teachers, they weren't very competent in teaching Nahu and did not have the drive. So the idea was to learn Nahu for the purpose of passing the test. So the attitude was, if you get asked this, say that and you'll pass. Yeah? And because of this, a lot of people, they have the impression that Nahu is hard. If they took the time to explain to us this concept, the concept of amil, and always ask yourself, what is the amil? What led this word to have this particular haraka? So as you rightly asked, Brother Ahmed, يلعب, the first word in this sentence, يلعب, right? Why does it have this dhamma on top of it? All right, we said every word that has been influenced into one state of i'rab or one haraka, one particular haraka, when there was other options, there must have been a عامل before it. طيب. Here there is a عامل, but it is not appropriate for me to speak about it in this class. I want you to understand that there is a عامل here, which I will mention to you at advanced classes, but there is a عامل. There are no circumstances in which there is a word that has one state of i'rab or one haraka where there was other options, except that there is a عامل. Right? And it is very crucial that you get into the habit of asking, what is the عامل? What is the عامل?
That was my point, because there was nothing
Before it, yes.
Is there like a default? You do a dhamma on a verb at the beginning of a sentence. Is that like a
The absence of عامل, so the absence of physical عامل, they call it, that in itself is a عامل.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
So there is a عامل, which is what? Which is not physical. They call it عامل معنوي, meaning abstract or conceptual عامل. So it's an influencing factor, which is not physical, which is not physically written, but it's understood, it's there, which is what? The absence of عامل.
Okay.
The absence of عامل itself is a عامل, if that makes sense. But when I come to it, inshallah, I will tell you more. But get it in your head. There is no word that is mu'raba. What is mu'rab?
a word that has three possible characters?
Yeah, it can vary. The end of it can vary from one haraka to another, or from one state to another. It can never have a particular haraka or a particular state of i'rab, except that there is a factor. If you get into the habit of asking what is the factor, the remainder chapters of the nahu, after we finish the first 5, will be so easy. If you get into the habit of just accepting this is marfu' and that's it, khalas, end of story, then the following chapters will be extremely difficult for you, right?
Did you say awamil ma'ani?
Huh?
Awamil
عوامل معنوية.
ma'ani.
معنوية.
More not
So-
to say the تقدير.
لا العوامل إما أن تكون لفظية أو تكون معنوية. We'll come to that. It's not complicated, but it's just I don't want to throw everything here.
Oh, that's fine.
طيب, let's take an example, another example here. Who can give us an example in Arabic or in English, and then we can translate it? Subhanallah, times. One last example, and then we call it a day, inshallah. Example, any example, huh?
يجلس الطالب.
طيب, أكلت البنت الطعام. Right, this is a significant example. Let's say, look, أكلت أكلت البنت الطعام. Oops. أكلت right. أكلت البنت الطعام. Right. Now, أكلت البنت الطعام. Here it's in the board. أكلت البنت الطعام. Right. First and foremost, who can tell me the meanings of these words? أكلت, she ate. Yeah, she ate. So she ate. While we are here, if we want to say he ate, how would it be? أكل. She ate. أكلت. So the only difference was this ta here. So this ta here, look, this ta here is not really part of the verb. This ta here is a harf that serves the meaning of indicating that this fi'l is conducted by a female. Right? But it has no other functions. just indicating that this fi'l is conducted by a female. If it was conducted by a male, it would have been what? Akala. This ta, they call it ta'ut ta'nith. Ta'ut ta'nith. Don't worry if you don't remember this technical name, but it's just ta is a harf. So I want you to see that if I ask you in this word here, how many words do you see? How many words do you see inside the circle? You know?
5.
Inside of this circle, how many words do you see? One? Two. What's the first word? Akala. The second word? Ta. So that ta is another word, which is harf. So when we look at huruf and we say Arabic words in the Arabic language can be ism, fi'l, or harf. Now we have two words here. One word that is a fi'l, and another word that is a harf. This harf, does it have a meaning?
It indicates something.
Yeah, so that's a meaning.
Yeah.
So we said all huruf in Nahu, they have a meaning, right? The huruf that don't have meaning are what? Huruf al-mabani, which is of no concern to us in Nahu. In Nahu, we are concerned with huruf al-ma'ani. So every harf has a meaning. So this harf has a meaning, all right? Is it amil? It's not amil. It's not amil. What does it mean? When we say it's not amil, what does it mean? It's not influencing the following word. It has no bearing on the following word. Okay, so it's a ta that is mabniya. Mabniya, harf mabni. What does harf mabni means? The end of always stays in the same state, right? It has a meaning. And the last thing, whether or not it has is a amil. In this particular case, this ta is not a amil. Are we clear about this? All right. So we have akala ti. Now al-bintu means the girl, right? The girl, right? Al-bintu. Can you see that there is a dhamma at the end of it? Huh? What does that signify, Umar? That's this dhamma here. What does it signify?
It signifies that is a subject.
It's a subject. What's the word for subject in Nahu? فاعل. فاعل. الفاعل. طيب. And look at the word الطعام. الطعام means what? The food. The food. All right. الطعام, what does it have? Fatha on top of it. Fatha. What does it indicate?
It's the subject.
That this is the subject. So the girl ate the food, right? The girl ate the food. So we have a sentence now. What does it have? It has a fi'l, verb at the beginning. We know that we're dealing with a jumla fi'liya. And then it also came with a letter that has no amil, that isn't a amil, but has a meaning. And we have two ism. One ism adopting the role of fa'il, indicated by the dhamma, and another ism adopting the role of maf'ul bihi, indicated by the fatha. طيب. All right, this is enough for today, inshallah. We'll stop here, bidnillah ta'ala. Anything confusing in this class? Clear? What I recommend you do, especially when it comes to technical words. Right? For example, next class, I don't want you to be using the word subject or object. So now we are studying Nahu. At least these words, you need to have mastered them. Say fa'il and say maf'ul. Say fi'l, don't say verb. All right? That's how you slowly increase your Arabic vocabulary, inshallah. جزاكم الله خيرا. بارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you. Jazakallah.
معكم إن شاء الله. يلا طيب. مع السلامة. بارك الله فيك my brother. We need to, إن شاء الله.
Yeah, we will.
يلا بارك الله فيك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. I'll see you soon, آسف إن شاء الله.
Yeah, inshallah, my brother. Inshallah.
السلام عليكم.